Gang violence in Los Angeles. More than a dozen dead every week. Neighborhood battles about drugs, turf, loyalty among 100,000 Crips and Bloods.
The system doesn't work for us. When one of our people dies, police don't give a damn, you know. They make the report, scoop the body up, and he's gone to the morgue. They like, yeah, one less nigga off the street.
If somebody came up to you tomorrow, grabbed you and said, I got a job, good pay for you, would that make a difference?
Come on, let's go now.
It ain't gonna stop me from cripping.
But you take the job too, wouldn't you?
Huh?
You take the job too?
I'm a crip at work.
Police say the new generation is younger, harder, less reluctant to kill.
Yeah, kill to be killed, that's all it is.
They come through here, blast back.
Why do you need the weapons? Because guys don't fight anymore. They don't use the. We used to fight, but they don't do that anymore. Guns. All about shooting, taking them out.
Kenneth Wayne Johnson Sr., aka OG Turtle, was born on July 23rd, 1958 in Louisiana. He would relocate to Houston, Texas as a small child, and he would live there until he was about 14 years old. That's when his dad came back into his life. He had flew from Cali down to Texas to tell Turtle's mom that he wanted to make them a family again. Turtle had 5 siblings, and his dad, he wanted them to be one. So he told Turtle's mom he had a house, he had the rooms already furnished, he even had a business ready for the family once they arrived. And she agreed, so they left Texas and relocated to California. Now, Turtle's dad, he was a very strict man. He was hard on his kids because he wanted them to stay on the right path. And he also knew that there was a gang culture in Los Angeles, and he wanted to keep them far away from it. But even though he was very stern and strict, he also showed his kids a lot of love. He didn't have no problem splurging on his kids. He would do things like take all of them out and buy them brand new bikes and things like that. But even if he bought a bike or something, he would only let the kids ride but so far. He would stand in the window to make sure that they didn't leave the block, that he can always keep them in sight, because he knew that it was gangs out there, and if he let them go too far, they could possibly get into trouble. So even when he showed love, he still had to keep them under his thumb. But Turtle, he ain't like this. Turtle was a free spirit, and him and his dad, they constantly clashed. According to his sister, she felt like maybe it was because they were so much alike, but it was almost like Turtle somewhat had to prove his dad wrong, like, hey, I can do things without you. But his dad was just trying to show him the way, and that's why he had a family restaurant. The kids, right when they left school, they would go work in the restaurant. Their mom was the cook, Mama Johnson, and their dad, he handled everything else, and the kids would help out. It was a family affair. It was called Johnson's Soul Food in Long Beach, Orange Avenue, and it was successful too. But even though things were going good for the family on the business side, personally, Turtle's mom and dad began to fight more and more, and it led to his dad to leave the home. He moved out to Long Beach, and they stayed in Los Angeles. That structure was gone. That watchful eye of his father was no longer there, and he was exposed to the growing gang culture around him. Like I said, they used to get out of school and be picked up by their mom and dad and taken straight to the restaurant to help run the business. But now his dad was running the business himself. They were walking home from school, they were meeting people in the neighborhood and learning LA gang culture. Turtle was originally from Texas, so they weren't really used to the whole gang banging thing. So when him and his younger brother Whiskey started to get ran home from school, they were confused. They had no idea that they were in the middle of the Crips and the Bloods.
Well, you know, I used to wonder what they running for. What's Crip? What's Pyru? So I go home, my buddies used to, ask me what I'm doing coming from that way. You a Pyru? I say, no, man. And I get stopped on the other side of the street. They ask me if I'm a Crip. And I say, no, I don't know what you're talking about. So I was in the blind. I didn't know what was what. till a couple of guys told me, you know, Pyru's over there, you know, Crips over here, you know. So I say, is that right? What's that? They say a gang, a street gang. You know, so me and my little brother, we didn't know, you know, we didn't know nothing. You know, we knew. So after a while, you know, we got to going along, you know, getting used to it. You know, so we started being in the street gang too. Crips. Crip. You know, I started doing what the Crip was.
Turtle's mom would do everything that she could to keep him and his little brother Whiskey away from the gang life. She had took up a job as a teacher, and it was only so much she could do when she wasn't around. The kids would be out of school for hours, so by the time she got home, Turtle and his little brother, they would already be missing. And she would always ask his sister Diane, where your brothers at? And she would tell them, they either on Willow Street or Spring Street. That's where they would be kicking it. Their mom would go snatch them up, give them a whooping, and that very same night, they would sneak back out. It wasn't no stopping them. Turtle, he was in the streets now, and there was nothing his mom could really do about it, especially since his dad was no longer there too. He would get the nickname Turtle while attending school. They wanted him to come out for the track team because everybody knew how fast he was. Like, he had a reputation for being fast, but he was a street dude. He wasn't trying to run no track. So as a way to poke a little fun at him, they started calling him Turtle, you know, just joking. But the name stuck, and the name Turtle began to ring out in the streets of Compton. And his mom would learn just how active her son had become after an incident with a neighborhood drug dealer by the name of Drew Fly. He came to their home asking Turtle about some drugs that he had fronted him. But Turtle's mom, she had already found the drugs. And when she found them, she flushed them down the toilet. And that's what Turtle told him. Like, hey man, I ain't got your money, I ain't got your drugs, my mama flushed it. And he was like, yo man, you lying, you got something. Like, you gotta come up off of it. But Turtle was like, hey, I don't know what to tell you. But later that same night, a Molotov cocktail came flying through their house. Luckily, they were able to put it out and everybody was safe. But this started a back and forth between Turtle and the drug dealer Drew Fly. And this also forced his mom to face the fact that her son was now knee-deep in the streets, and now their home was no longer safe, and they were forced to relocate. But Turtle, he wouldn't be relocating with them. He began to call the streets of Compton his home. He's most known for being a member of the Santana Blocc Crips and being one of the most charismatic and active members.
Well, the skating ring, partner. Yeah, I'm in here, baby. Tell me like it's hot, baby. Yeah.
The Santana Blocc Crips are one of the most respected and feared gangs in Los Angeles, and they have multiple rivals, but they're probably most known to beef with the Looters Park Bloods. Allegedly, this rivalry started when a young man by the name of Kim Bullet Tate was killed by Looters Park Bloods in 1978, and ever since then, the war's been on.
This you better watch out. Is an M1 carbine, 32 rounds. I can go tear up Looters Park with this. I can kill about 32 people if I hit them all.
OG Turtle was definitely one of the most respected members of the Santana Blocc Crips. He ran with people like Rabbit, Kizzy, Twin. He had a Mexican homie that he was close to by the name of Primo Pete. He was down with Santana Blocc too. And actually, a future legend of the set and co-founder of the CC Riders, Frederick Staves, aka Baby Gangster, he said he kind of looked up to Turtle a bit because, you know, Turtle was doing things on a major level. And a lot of people like to refer to him as the leader. Turtle never said he was the leader. He didn't even like to be referred to as that. He looked at himself as the brains of the operation. He didn't smoke, He didn't drink, he didn't do no drugs. And during that time, a lot of the homies was getting caught up on the whole getting high on your own supply. So somebody had to think clearly, and that person was Turtle.
I don't call myself a leader. I don't like nobody saying I got boys, because I don't like that. You know, but somebody have to do the thinking, you know. And I'm the only one around, don't get high, don't smoke dope or nothing, so I figure I can do the thinking.
OG Turtle already had a small drug operation in motion, but things were about to go to the next level when he linked up with his right-hand man, OG Melly Mel. See, according to Melly Mel, he gave him new tricks of the trade, new connections, you know, able to make more money. And according to him, he saw Turtle have a meeting with the Compton police, and he gave him 2 bags, 1 bag full of drugs and 1 bag full of money. And he said for the next 3 years, they was able to move work without any interference from the cops. And this was the mid-'80s. Rick Ross was around during this time, so you know they was out there getting it. The bags was dropping in, and Turtle, he was the man. He was like a neighborhood superstar. But even though Turtle was beloved in his hood, there was still hate from his enemies. And there was a situation that somebody got up on him and hit him 6 times with a .38. Luckily, he was able to survive the attack.
38 revolver. It really hurts. I had 6 of them in me. It hurts real bad.
Real bad.
That's why right now I issue it out.
My Lord.
It's good receiving. I ships it.
He had the flyest lowriders in the city. It wasn't a problem he couldn't handle. He looked out for his family, breaking bread with them. He would even go stunt on his dad from time to time, showing his dad, you know, that he had money and just how he was getting it. You know, they had somewhat of an interesting relationship, like a love, but it was definitely some friction there. But there was nothing but love when it came to his mom. It's a story that one day his mom was driving to school because she was a teacher, and her car had broke down, and she called Turtle like, hey, you know, babe, my car broke down and can you help me? And instead of sending somebody out to just fix his mama's car, what he did was bought his mom a brand new car, put a bow on top of it, and drove it up to the school to surprise her. That's just the type of guy he was when it came to his family. But unfortunately, the life of the Santana Blocc legend would come to a tragic end in Inglewood, California in the year of 1989. He was found not too far from the home of his girlfriend with multiple gunshot wounds. His sister, Diane, she described that day. She said her mother talked to Turtle a few hours before they got the news he had been shot. And she said that when she spoke to him, something was off, like he wasn't himself. Something was definitely wrong. And then they got the phone call that he had been shot. And initially, when they were going over there, they figured that he had been just that, shot, not murdered. So when they arrived on scene and the police started asking her mom questions like, hey, have you spoke to your son today? What was he wearing? Things like that. They were kind of confused. Then the police told them to go inside of the home. And while they were sitting there being questioned by the police, Turtle's girlfriend's mom came out and told his sister Diane that, hey, you know you can see his body from my window, right? And his sister said that she was in shock. She didn't know that he was already dead. There was no ambulance around, no coroner, no nothing. And she had to make the decision. Did she want to remember her brother the last time that she actually seen him alive? Or did she want to go to that room and look out that window? And she made the decision to go. And that's when she saw her brother, Turtle, shot all in his legs, dead. And this was definitely traumatizing to his sister and his mother. And his body laid out there for hours and hours before the coroner finally came to pick him up. The police, they tried to say it was a drug deal going wrong, but a lot of people felt like it was something more sinister. They felt like the police were the ones who did the crime. He had a history with paying him off so he could move his work in peace. Maybe that went left. and maybe the police decided to get rid of Turtle.
Rebuke today for the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department. A long investigation into drug money skimming culminated today in more than a dozen criminal indictments.
This was a time when corruption in the LAPD was super rampant. They had a lot of those secret gang units and the sheriff units that were dedicated, quote unquote, to taking down drug dealers and gangs, but a lot of those end up being the gangs themselves. But at the end of the day, we'll never really know exactly what happened to Turtle. His murder remains unsolved to this day. It's a sad situation. And his mom, Mama Johnson, she was angry at Turtle. She was mad that she had lost her eldest son to the streets, despite her best efforts. And at first, she wasn't even gonna have a funeral. But his dad stepped in and said, hey, you owe it to his friends that he'd known since he was a kid to have a funeral. Then she wanted to have a closed casket, but they convinced her to open the casket and let them say goodbye to their friend. And it's also heartbreaking that he never got the opportunity to reconcile with his dad because they had such a strained relationship. Even though, to me, it's pretty obvious that his dad cared for him, and it did affect him deeply when Turtle died. So that's another tragic part of this story. It's sad, man. But the legacy of Turtle, it still rings out in the streets of Compton and in the Santana Blocc Crips. And you can even see him on the internet. His clips are still there. You can find it on YouTube. You can see his charisma, his style, his cripping. And OG Turtle, he was only 30 years old when he died, man. Rest in peace.